Okay, it is Friday night, and as the greatest frontman in rock music history has ever said, I'm back in the South again. It's been 3 weeks since I had a chance to hang with my buddy Will Allred and comic creators doing their Kickstarter campaigns. I'm ready to go. The time change has not affected me in any way whatsoever, and I am going to be great to go. Will, how has your week been?
Oh, about the same. I find myself breaking into, rage-fueled rants about time change. I don't know why that's, possibly, happening, but it does happen.
This didn't affect me as much until I started just dying at like 38. And I'm just like, when will it be over? And my doctor says very, very soon. So that's good news. But it is time to meet our creators. We have Patrick, we have Laurent, and we have Leon. And unless he is playing some serious games with us, we may have that guy coming in a little bit later. For the show, Charlie Stickney will pop in when his routine, we hit him at the wrong time and Pacific Standard Time. But when he can make it, he'll be in. But as we usually do, we do a little 30 second elevator pitch on each project. Everybody, we'll start with Patrick because you're on my screen up top. If someone was passing you in a comic convention and they wanted to know more about Bixby Grant, how would you get their attention in 12 steps or less? Because that's all you got at a convention.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's okay. So I would say it's a mummy detective who lives in a ghost and ghoul infested city.
Well, Goose is a ghost in Top Gun. So
fair point. I was just combining my words, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It's a 30s gumshooter detective becomes a mummy detective.
Hey, you did great. I'm the guy who gave you a half hour to do it, so I'm not going to make fun of you saying the wrong thing. I'm going to do the circle. Laurent, I know what sacrifice is, but if somebody didn't, how would you get their attention at a comic convention?
Show off one of the many covers I have, which I love all of them. I'm happy with all that came out, and hit it with the pitch. Hellboy meets Evil Dead. The superpowered host of Lucifer is gathering allies to help him with two objectives. One, stop the second coming of Lucifer, and two, make enough money by fighting demons to help keep the lights on.
Beautiful. Now, until this week, I was ignorant on Fangs and Foul Play. So, okay, could you please, if I was coming past your booth, how would you get my attention about your book?
On shows, I usually start it the other way, but in person, I usually start with the cat. So I say it's about a vampiric cat who enthralls a deserted army colonel and forces the colonel to find victims to feed to him.
All right. So how would you do it the other way? Let's. Well,
Richard's the actual protagonist, but vampiric cat usually gets people to. Yeah, that catches their ears first. So
no, it is a Clay Adams truthism that cats on your Kickstarter page are a great idea. So having a cat be a main character and a vampiric cat at that is something that's great. Oh my gosh! So we've got Joey from the Geek Collective. Come on, Joey. We got to get you on here one of these weeks to talk about what you do with the Kickstarter campaigns, because I know you're working with a bunch of creators. So maybe 1 week we'll have to have Joey sit in. But you know what? Not this week. We love you, but you're out.
Joey's my boy.
Joey's great. He's fabulous. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Joey and the Geek Collective. So we have to rib him just because he does so much for us. Well, okay. You had to go last on the pitches. So why don't we deep dive into Fangs and Foul Play? I will pull up the screen and you give us a bit about how it came to be.
Sure. It was kind of an odd, I have lots of 2 a.m. thoughts, but this one kind of came together with the cover of issue 1, where there's this cat and a bunch of dead bodies, although we left out the dead bodies on the cover. And so I was trying to figure out why is this cat killing people, and I I from there it developed into the story it is now. I think it took about a year before I had the first script. Not that like I was like writing it straight for a year, but between like ideation and finalizing it. This is a really cool print that we have going right now.
What is the other campaign that you're cross promoting with?
Mary Shelley's School for Monsters.
Okay, I missed that one. I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's really cool. I've seen that one too.
So you've got your protagonist leaving war in issue 1 and running into a vampiric cat. Now I checked out the video today. This is like a all ages type feel, or does it veer into a darker horror?
I'm calling it PG-13 because there might be some more blood and gore. I would say that like right now it's probably pretty safe for like PG.
Right.
Because there's a little bit of blood and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't think you can have blood. So.
Yeah, I can hear that. Well, I mean, if it really is a vampiric cat that really will hurt people, I think that staying out of G is probably a good idea for you.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to, buy it for their kid, that's up to them.
You will shut up and take their money.
Yeah.
Well, how many issues would this run in a perfect world where it catches storm and you get to tell your full story?
Yeah, the first arc is 4 issues. So it has like an ending, but the total like number of trades I'm looking at is about 4, with 4 to 6 issues each. And then that'll be like the end, the final end.
That sounds fun. The artist is really cool. Who is the art team on this?
This is Alex Gunther. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Or maybe Gunther. I don't know. Anyways, pronunciation names. And he's in Brazil. And Miriam Yasser is a colorist who is in Egypt.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got him around the world working.
Yeah.
Working.
I'm not actually sure what the time zone difference is, but I'm up late, so it works.
So who would this character be coming in on the screen that I'm looking at? We've got a young lady coming to meet your protagonist.
Yeah, this is Delilah, and she's introduced in in issue 1. And she's kind of the love interest of Richard. I don't know, he hasn't really like declared it, but it's kind of obvious that he likes her, stuff like that.
So my kid turned 14 this year, and about 2 years ago, she started literally screaming out when we're watching a movie, "The love interest," and she's right 98% of the time. Like it's just like bam. I'm like, you're very smart. Shut up. There it is. Here it is. All the cats. So are these all backers who have shared their cats with you?
No, these are my cats.
Oh, these are all your cats. Wow.
Yes. There's one more.
Wow. We have pseudo adopted 2 feral cats that live out in our backyard. We were fine with letting the mama just kind of survive, but when she had a kitten, and she had 2 kittens, and one disappeared, we're hoping was found by a family. We're going to go with the positive story, the positive outcome that could be, but we're like, all right, we need to start feeding her so she can keep this other kitten strong. Right. And we found somebody apparently to come hopefully catch them, neuter them, and re-release them back in our yard, but that part of the plan hasn't happened yet. But so I love cats. I think they're amazing, and I'm so allergic that I can never be within 20 feet of them. So that's about where my cat So I saw this the theme song. What this is really interesting. What is the theme song tier on your campaign?
So it's the theme song, and then just kind of like all the background digital goodies that you get in all of the other tiers. I also have it as an add-on for people who are getting larger tiers. I kind of wanted an intermediate tier between the like 1 and 5 to give somebody an option there where they get a couple fun goodies. And that there is a video. It's higher up. that has the theme song in it.
Okay, cool. Maybe at the very end we can play it. We've found that playing the videos kind of is tough because we do this live where people can watch and enjoy it, and then we also share it as a podcast where people are driving in their car and they hear a couple squeaks and groans, and so we're veering away from video during the show for that reason. So, but maybe at the end, if you remind me.
Okay.
We can let people know we're listening to the theme. I'm guessing there is a catch-up tier for people who were
that's
slow
the one
like
there.
me. Oh yeah,
And it's been doing pretty well.
yeah. I think as soon as we're done with the show, because I've been catching up all week, I'm going to have to jump onto this one. So I apologize for missing your first two campaigns. Is this your third or
this
your
is the second, because issue 0 and issue 1 were printed together, but as digital, they're separate digital. Anyways, yeah.
Gotcha. What was the reason behind that?
So issue 0 you can get for free if you sign up for my mailing list.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much the impetus for doing that. And people who, if people don't want to sign up for my mailing list, then they can buy it. So
Seems
That
fair.
works too, right?
Well, I heard somebody coming in with a question. I don't want to cut you off again.
I was actually about to ask about issue 0 because I didn't know if it would be like a prequel issue to like before the story started, because I always like issue 0 is usually like trying to see like where things take place, so just seeing if that's something that, because I'm actually on the page for it now. That's what, if you heard any typing to back, I just didn't know what to expect from a 0.
yeah, it's pretty much really the start of the story, which is why it's printed together with 1, because you can't really like just go into 1 so much. So yeah, that's why they're printed together, because it's only 12 pages, which was actually, that was a good length for that intro. It worked out well.
If
I have
you're
a
watching,
question about the theme song. Never mind. Did you compose the theme song?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Who did you get to do that for you?
David Gueringer.
Okay. I'm really jealous. I wish I had thought of that. I want to do that for my next one.
He's on Facebook.
Cool.
and we are having a live backing because I ran out of time to do my due diligence this week.
See, explain yourself bump, right?
There
it is.
It is live and it is done. All right. So that brings us back to now you are sitting at, I think,
Probably 80%, maybe.
Yeah, you've got 10 days to go. Over
Almost
3,500,
90%.
171
Is it?
backers. Yeah, you're doing great.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, man. Once the explain yourself bump kicks in, you've got it made in the shade now.
Yeah, I think we did. It was a little bit over 200 on the first one for backers, backer count. So hopefully we will. I think we'll probably exceed that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're sitting at 171, yes, because the last 48 hours always brings a lot of people. So I think you've got a really strong chance. And I know for my campaigns, the first, second, and third, my number count was very similar. And then after I'd done 3 or 4, they started lumping up as people really trusted that I would deliver. So you're in that second campaign where you're matching the first, which is great. And I think you probably will beat it by a little bit, but it looks like a really cool campaign and I'm excited to get it. My kid's 14, so PG-13, give her some blood. She's going to be excited. She's ready for it. So that's awesome. So Shawnee in the chat says, Lynn, your project looks very unique and pretty darn cool, and I love your hair.
Oh, thank you. I got it freshened up before the campaign, so.
Very smart, very smart. Well, all right, let's check out. Well, you know what? Sacrifice has been on, so let's leave you as our cleanup hitter or number 3 man. Let's get to Bixby Grant. Patrick, can you share your page?
Absolutely. Let me
We checked this beforehand, so we're gonna see if it
Yes.
still works.
give it another go here.
And down before we get you in, I see somebody who's popping in. Charlie Stickney has made it. How are you,
Hey.
bud?
Hey, Charlie.
I'm good. I'm good.
So
I want to
we've been
interrupt.
going.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've been going through the Fangs and Foul Play campaign. So I apologize for not seeing you if you've been in there for a while, but
No, it's fine. I think that people should back twice every time they see a cat in the project. It's almost like a drinking game. So if you've only pledged once and you see a cat, you just keep pledging as long as the cats keep going by.
oh,
Does that
crap.
count for dogs too, man?
Yeah.
I mean, dogs.
Yeah.
Come on.
I feel like I have to go back again because everybody on here knows I've only backed once. Like I can't even pretend I did. All right, let's check out Bixby Grant. Let's see this mummified private detective.
All right.
So where did this idea come from?
Believe it or not, this idea is 30 years old. So
Wow.
I'm a little older than I look. I have, aside from the gray hairs you can see here. In college, I went to school for illustration, and I was really influenced. I love comics, and at the time, do you guys remember the first appearance of the Great Lakes Avengers way back in the 90s?
I didn't know it when they came out. I have
Okay.
since run into
All right.
them, but I didn't know it at the time.
Okay, so there was a character in there called Mr. Immortal, and he was actually just in the She-Hulk show. That character, his whole power was just that he couldn't die, and like he could get all jacked up and hurt and whatever, and you could just snap back into place and he'd be fine. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And at the time, I was also watching a bunch of like noir detective stories, like the Maltese Falcon and Sam Spade and that kind of fun stuff. And I just kind of mashed the two together, and I just started drawing this character when I was in art school. So that was the seed of the idea. But over the years, I started adding other characters, and my love of the Universal monsters, I started adding a werewolf, and I have an idea for. I also have a vampire in there, and I also have an idea for a creature from the Black Lagoon type of character. So hopefully, I think you said this off the air, but this is kind of like my first movie. It's a 72 pager, but I've of course got other stories. So like if this one does well, I hope to come back and do another follow-up with some of my additional characters.
No, so you said you started drawing this, which begs the question, are you writing this, or are you doing the thing that pisses Will and I off, that you can write and draw and do everything yourself because you're a big old bragger?
Well, one of the reasons it took 30 years to get this done was because I kept putting it off because I wanted to draw it.
Gotcha.
But I had a day job, and that took me on a non-comics path. It's been a great job. It allowed me to buy this house and raise my kids and all kinds of fun stuff. But it meant that I did start a comic publishing, a very small indie comic publishing company back in 2000 called Comic Works. And I put out a 10-pager with Bixby Grant in it that I didn't draw that one either. It's just because every time I went to go do it, I was like, oh man, my skills are super rusty.
Oh, no.
I'll have to wait. So I kept putting it off. And finally I just said, all right, I get it. I'm not going to be the one who draws it. And I found this great artist named Gonzalo Martinez, who lives down in Chile. That was about a year ago when we did a short story together, kind of an intro to Bix, like a 7-pager, just to see if we could gel. And then I was really happy with him and the Arthur Hesley, the guy who does the colors. And we just kind of clicked, and here we are today. The book is, I'd say it's almost completely drawn. It's about half colored, and it's about a third lettered at this point.
Okay. Well, I do want to say that Will and I are really happy that you're one of us. Except for the fact that you could draw and Will and I can't. But the fact that you're not really makes us feel great about ourselves for a moment until we look too deep into it. Well, let's look down the page and check out some of this great artwork that you are shepherding, but not actually creating at
Absolutely.
this time.
And who's doing your lettering for you?
So Steve Wands is doing the lettering. He's comic fans will probably recognize him. He's worked on Batman, The Flash. He's worked on a bunch of Image books. Yeah, he's a real pro. He also does layout and design. He's the full package, man. He's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my editor also is Heather Antos, who I don't know if you guys
nice. Yeah.
Yep.
know her name, but she's formerly of Marvel. She's created she co-created Dr. Aphra for Star Wars, and the Wookiee bounty hunter whose name I can never quite get right. You know who I'm talking about.
I know
Yeah.
I know him from
Yeah.
the show. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and Gwenpool, she's currently at IDW, but she also freelances, so I was able to work with her. I really wanted to make sure that I've written things before, but if I was going to go whole hog with this, I really didn't want it to suck. So, and we all have friends, I'm sure you guys do too, where you can show them stuff, and they might be writers themselves or editors or work in some creative capacity, but you really need somebody who's got an objective, opinion, who can say this part's not working, this character has no point, just really poke holes in it and help you, improve it. So, working with the whole team has been, I think, made this a phenomenal project.
How did you get such a kind of all-star group together? Because I mean, you got a guy who's lettering for DC. Heather Antos is a big name in the thing. So how did you have you worked with some of the people before?
No, this is the first time with this crew. Years ago when I had Comic Works, my partner was Shannon Eric Denton, who used to be an editor at Wildstorm /DC. He's worked in animation for 20 years. So I got to know a lot of people in the business, but honestly, this time I wanted to cut ties, not really cut ties. That sounds weird. But just try to work with a new group of people and see what that was like. So my first stop was talking to Heather. She does consultations for Kickstarters, and I had never done a Kickstarter before. And she obviously specializes in comics in particular. So I just did a one-off. I paid her an hourly rate. It's on her website. You can just call her up, and she surprisingly said yes. And then a few weeks later, I was like, I think I want to do this for real. And I just hit her up, and she was like, well, I can't take on an ongoing series, but I could probably do a graphic novel. Right. And so I said, oh, okay. So, obviously none of these people are working for free. Right. Mm-hmm. So I have saved up for years to do this project. And I've also sold off a lot of my old comics to make this happen. Before the bubble burst, during the pandemic, I was selling comics every single day, paying off credit cards and making sure I had, save up enough for this. So it's been a long time in the works, and it's really, honestly, literally a dream come true.
That's pretty cool. You're pulling a Kevin Smith. That always meaningful to sell off the comics to make the thing.
I mean, you can buy those comics back eventually, but I wouldn't have this comic being put together right now if it weren't for that. So Heather actually was the one who put me in touch with Steve Wands, because of course she knows everybody. Gonzalo I met through, so my buddy Shannon, who I mentioned earlier, he knows Geraldo Borges, who is the penciler on Nightwing, or has been most recently. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He lives, I believe, in Brazil. And he and another guy named Claudio Alvarez managed like a studio full of South American artists. And if you go to Action Comics or actioncomicsgo.com, you'll see a bunch of people that you have probably seen their work before, but just didn't know quite who they were or where they came from. And so they hooked me up with Gonzalo. He had the right sensibility and a style that I really liked. And was also in my budget, because not everybody, you're not going to go, I'm not going to go get, Stuart Immonen or, an A-lister. Sorry, Gonzalo, you are an A-lister in my heart, but not in the American comic scene, right? So
he's going to be after Bixby Grant gets in people's hands. That's the thing.
I hope not, because I want him to keep doing Bixby Grant. And Gonzalo, if you're watching this, I love you.
Our buddy Clay Adams came up about the cats, but he hired a guy for a comic book, and that guy immediately got a job doing animation for Archer. And so really? He's just like, yeah, I couldn't really tell him to stay with my comic.
Right. I mean, we've all heard those stories if we haven't been a part of them.
Right.
We know people who are like, oh man, I found this awesome artist. Like, oh yeah, he did 5 pages and then he got, he's working at Image now,
Yeah.
or wherever they got scooped up. It's hard.
If you love an artist, you have to let them go.
You do.
That's the rule.
The beauty of paying them is that I get compensated if they don't finish what they're doing. So all my collaborators, I put together a legal contract and did it upright because I've heard for 25 years being in and around comics how screwed everybody gets, and I don't want to have this be one of those stories. So.
And not in a good way either.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly.
I hear all these stories, and it's not the positive kind.
It's not. It's not. No, you're
I'm just going
right.
to say, like, if you want to keep an artist, and it's not really about the contracts; it's about the compromising photos. If you have those, it's totally fine. They will be with you forever.
Yep. See, the problem with Gonzalo is he is squeaky clean, man. So I had to end up paying him. But Jesse, who did my B cover, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He really does not do a lot of work for the big two. He does his own stuff, and he also does a lot of commissions. And he is awesome. Behind me, I've got a couple of his books. And out of nowhere, I was basically cold calling artists to see if they would do variant covers for me. And Jesse was the only one who got back to me. All the other ones, I also have Raphael Albuquerque, but I was able to get him through Heather because Heather's contact list is far more robust, and they will actually return her calls.
Yes,
unlike me, where it says unknown. So
this time we're all building it off of the first Bix Regret.
That's right. So yeah, Jesse is super cool, man, and he just got back to me like within a day. He was very, very reasonable. He had really great sketches. He had brought a lot of good energy to it. So, and then Raphael, who I think everybody knows, at least is familiar with his work. I didn't know him personally, obviously, but love American Vampire, love what he's done with Detective, basically everything he's done. And he just brought a real awesome kind of old school, kind of noir novel cover feel to it. Yeah, I mean, Heather happened to ask him and he happened to have some availability, and believe it or not, he turned this around in a day.
What?
So yeah, I swear to God. Yeah, he's like liquid. Like he's working on a ton of stuff. He's not just doing a daily comic. He's also doing commissions. He's also doing posters. He's also doing like a ton of stuff, like kind of like Francesco Francavilla. I don't know if you follow him on social at all, but he's always doing like a million things at the same time. So he sent me sketches for this on like a Monday night. I gave him a couple of notes, which felt weird to be giving Raphael Albuquerque notes. But he didn't know the character very well, so I had to explain it a little bit. And then he came back with a more robust sketch, and then by the next night, I had what you're looking at. Aside from I obviously added the trade dress, so it was. But he got it, man. It was so much fun. I don't know, you guys have had, the other creators here have had a couple of projects before, and this is my first one, and I still feel kind of giddy. Like I'm getting to do this as opposed to like I'm having to do this, and it's just so much fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, Charlie's had a bunch of them. So does that giddiness stick with you, Charlie, or do you get old and grizzled and?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was dead inside before I started doing this. No. There's having had books come out in the direct market and having books come out on Kickstarter. For me, there's a real buzz that you get on Kickstarter that you never get from the direct market, because there's always just that delay. You don't have that proximity, that direct connection to the people who are buying your book. I mean, it's great when someone comes up to you at a signing and actually knows you, as opposed to, oh, you're the indie person who's in my shop. I'm here to get Batman. I guess I'll look at your book. Like I feel like that's the kind of conversation I usually have when I'm doing those signings. That people are doing me a favor by coming over to look at what I've got, versus on Kickstarter where they're here, they come back. And so for me, the first one was exciting. The second one was overwhelming. And like every time I do another Kickstarter, I just feel so thankful that people are coming back and are backing what I have. And I'll tell you, like Bixby Grant was one that Carl Kessel, I think it's Kessel. Yeah, I've talked to Carl many times, but he had tweeted out, and I was like, "Oh, this is a beautiful book." So I backed it as soon as he tweeted out and said,
"Oh, thanks, man."
And his, yeah, I can see with his Impossible Jones why he would be the person who likes Bixby Grant. You can see the artist liking the art of the same thing. And speaking of artists, Gonzalo is in the comments. So Gonzalo, we've been singing your praises. So thank you so much for coming in. The art that I can see on this page is extraordinary, and I'm really excited to see your what was it, a 50s greaser vampire? Is that what that character really stood out to me? I was like, oh, I gotta learn more about this guy.
Yeah, so let's speak, since Gonzalo's here, let's start looking at some more of his art then, huh? So I think we've only got 4 pages on here, but it's just a little, taste. And the combo, and I've said this, so Gonzalo's probably tired of hearing me say this, is Gonzalo, prior to being a comic book artist, was an architect. So one of the benefits of working with him is that he really knows how to draw a room. And I know that sounds weird, but a lot of modern comic artists, myself included, are not good at spaces. All we do is practice how to draw, cool poses and people, and then we don't spend enough time with the environment around them. And you can see here too, like, look at this page here with all the, I know this is such a nerdy thing to talk about, but look at the fire escape. I know most people are like, wow, werewolf, mummy. And I'm like, no, look at the pipes. That's some heavy, perspective and some stuff that's not easy to pull off and make it look realistic. And Gonzalo does all of it. Like, he's got dynamic poses. He's got some action here. And Arthur Hesley, our colorist, works really well. He's tried a new thing. He's done some work for Heavy Metal and quite a few other comics. But for this one, I gave him a bunch of Greg Smallwood art and said, look at this and look at Darwin Cook and look at how they kind of literally block color, and start playing with that. And so he didn't copy it. He kind of made it his own, which I think looks fantastic. So, and he does a nice thing with like contrasting colors, like in this top space here, and with the flashlight and with the gun flare. And it's gorgeous. I mean, that's all the feedback that we're getting from a lot of people. And it's, I knew it starting back in March, but it's really awesome to hear all the feedback that people have been giving since the campaign went live. So it's very validating.
That's awesome. I did want to ask Laurent and LK. So Laurent is on his 4th campaign. LK, you're on your 2nd. Are you feeling the giddiness of people of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th campaign, or has it gotten old for you guys fast?
You can go first. You want, Leah?
All right. Yeah, I mean, like, initially there was a lot of excitement, and it was nice to see everybody, like, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people coming back. Hitting the dead zone was, I think it was a little bit better than last time, but still a little hard, So
somehow, no matter how many times you hit the dead zone, it's still like, oh God, I forgot how bad this could be. It's coming now, so it's, I guess, less painful, but you can't get out of that for some reason. The dead zone is still there. I know that I say the only thing I like better than a new backer is a returning backer, and both are great. But definitely. So for Laurent, though, you're starting to build, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a little over a week into my 4th one. It's weird where the first one, there's a lot of like nervousness to it. And then the 2nd and 3rd, I didn't really have that. Like, I had this weird level of confidence, like, okay, I'm not really too worried about it. And, it funded. And for some reason on the 4th one, maybe it's because I had to raise the amount like to put into it because usually I'd come in with my own money, like to a certain bit. And it was like trying to keep the goal down. Now it's like, okay, I can't really afford to do that. So it's higher. So maybe that's why, but this is the first time since the first one I've been like, nail biting. And like you're saying, the dead zone, I'm in that now. I'm like, okay, well, this sucks. It's when ready for this to either pick back up. Like I know in like the last 72 hours is like when you get a lot of people who are like, hey, remind me, I'm not going to back it right now. We'll see if it gets a little closer. They'll see what we'll do. So I was like, all right, I'm excited to get to that point.
Yeah. I think I have never talked to a creator that was like, you know what, I like the dead zone. I like that point where you're getting 3 backers a day and maybe 1 or 2 people pulling out. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, right.
There are probably some masochists out there that do, but they're smart enough not to tell us. Well, before we go away, what is one of your favorite tiers on this that you'd like people to check out?
That's a good point. So actually, before I do that, can I just interject one thing? You see this image back here, kind of shadowed behind everything. That I actually drew that. That's going to be on the back cover. So I just wanted to highlight the only artistic contribution of mine to this book.
Hey, better than what Will and I can do.
That's right.
And I figured, hey, it's my book. If I've got really talented folks on the front, then absolutely, why can't I put myself on the back? Right? It's my book. But anyways, to your question, I really like the fan package. It's not too pricey, and you get the poster plus the book, and you can get any of the covers
In a fanny pack, right?
I wish.
You can't have a fan package without a fanny pack. Come on, what are you thinking?
This is not the fanny package. This is just the fan package.
Bixby Grant Volume 2. It's got to happen.
The next one, the next Kickstarter for sure.
You might not get a single backer, but you got to do it.
I want to get Bixby Grant stitched onto a fanny pack. Absolutely.
This isn't a question, but I like the sticker pack. That was like, it was way up top.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Page up. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Yeah. So one of our stretch goals, the first one was the stickers, which we unlocked. And then the second one is this cover that Gonzalo did as a test for me about a year ago. And now we're going to use that as an art print, which is, I love that piece. And then just yesterday, we unlocked these 3 Virgin covers that were done by, Geraldo Borges, who I mentioned earlier, did this one on the right with the red color background. Moises Hidalgo did this one in the middle where he's fighting a Wendigo. If you don't know Moises, he's done a lot of work for IDW on, I think it was Morphin Power Rangers. And then the one on the left where Bix is jumping out a window, probably 20 stories up with a bunch of zombies, was done by Nelson Daniel, who's done a lot of work on Ninja Turtles for IDW. A lot of really great guys who did some phenomenal work, and I'm psyched that he's going to be on the cover. So, that just happened yesterday, and now they're available as add-ons.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
These covers are gorgeous, all of them.
Thanks, man.
No, you've brought some really cool people to the project, and I think the concept is really cool, and I can't wait to kind of jump into your world and find out exactly what it is. But it sounds totally worth my time. So if you could unshare that screen, perfect. Like Laurent, we said our third batter. We've got runners on second and third. We need you to drive them in before Charlie hits cleanup and takes all your RBIs. Let's get into sacrifice. I will share it while you kind of catch people up if they missed the 30-second pitch while I pull up the page.
So to go over the pitch again, it's Hellboy meets Evil Dead. The superpowered host of Lucifer is gathering allies for 2 reasons. 1, to help prevent Lucifer from bringing hell to Earth, and 2, to make enough money fighting demons to keep the lights on. It's a horror comedy series that's heavily rooted in its action.
And I will say it, the demon designs are some of the most unique, scary, crazy, and inventive I've ever seen. And I work with Ludovic Soleil, so that is saying a lot about how you and your artist come together to create these strange and scary demonic monsters. And you've told us before how some of them have come to be, but when Stan Lee said every comic is somebody's first, so every Explain Yourself is somebody's first. How do you guys come up with your demons?
So a lot of them end up like, usually I piece some things together. The one you see there is actually, it was tweaked a bit, but large part from like a nightmare I had at one point in time, because I have a lot of nightmares. I got used to them though. So I'll people before like, are you okay with that? I was like, yeah, it becomes normal.
What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, but I was like, yeah, it keeps things interesting. So that one's from that. A lot of it's like usually things I piece together. I'm like, okay, I like I've always loved horror stuff. So concepts and ideas I piece together, I throw it at my artist. I'm like, hey, what can you manage with this? And I try to draw. I have some really childish drawings that if I was a more brave man, I'd show them on the show.
If you're brave, you put them on the back of the comic.
Oh my God, no. So usually, I send it to him. It's like, hey, here's my childish scribbles, and here's some details, and then he puts it into what you see there, which I love it. If it's like there's like a mass of demons, then usually I have him be like, hey, whatever you want to make. But every now and then, like at least one per campaign, except for this one, I have a option for people to like have their own demons in there. Like in one of the preview pages with the angels, that demon that was there was a backer demon from the last issue, because I was finding it the most fun for these campaigns where you can include yourself in. Like in Big Screen, I did see you had like a tier for like becoming a werewolf. Like that's the type of thing I love to do in this. I try and give each campaign something where someone can like include themselves in.
Did you not do this one? Yeah, did you not do this one this time because you got more of the pages finished, or what was the reasoning?
No, so I always have the next, like the whole first arc's kind of like sketched out, and I know what's going to go into it when I have room for. So because of the content that's going to be in issue 5, there's not really any room for like extra demons to be in there, but there is room for extra angels. Like the way I usually get away with it is like, because I know like, hey, there's going to be this scene with 5 angels. I can make them look like just 5 whoever I want to, or I can give the opportunity for if someone wants to be in there to do that. Same thing for demons, or if I know I'm gonna have a scene that's gonna call for demons in this and this page, I'll leave it up to backers. If they want to be part of it, cool. If not, then I can come up with that, or have my artist Ichsan or UJ, Ichsan's the colorist, I mix them up. Have him do that. So it's mostly what I know is gonna come next.
Is it the same art team for the entire series so far?
Yes.
Cool.
The only time we had someone different on was just the variant artists.
Gotcha.
And I mean, $25 for 4 issue catch up is great. And I haven't read issue 3. I did read issues 1 and 2, and absolutely loved how you started it. Issue 3 is in my backlog, and I was going to reread it this week. But as I've admitted, this week just kicked the stuffing out of me, I will say, in case we'll try to keep the PG-13, but it's kicked the stuffing out of me, and I am so behind. I love the fact that you have the same art team, because I really love the way they work together and create your nightmares on the page.
Well, thank you. I'm glad there's someone benefiting it. It's all of you guys.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? How did you come together with your creative team?
So despite me not liking Facebook, it happened because of Facebook, where I made a post saying, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. It wasn't even for this book. It was for something I was doing beforehand that I ended up like scrapping, but the villain character of that's going to be in the next arc of Sacrifice. And I got a bunch of people come through for that who were like interested. I whittled it down to like 3, and after talking to them, like only one of them, which is the one I have now, is like, he started asking me questions back. He's like, okay, well, what do you want to do with this in case this doesn't work? What's your next plan? Like, he wanted to find someone who had the same type of drive as him. Because like it's fine to have someone like, if they do it like as a job, like perfectly fine. I wanted someone who like me was a stage where like, I know I want to constantly get better. I want to constantly do this. And he seemed so into it. Like immediately, I barely even talked to him. It's like, okay, this is the type of person like that that type of mentality pairs up really well with me. I want to work with him.
Sure.
And it's been fantastic ever since. And the other people we were able to get through the same page for my colorist, my letterer. I think I asked someone, I was like, hey, no, I let my letterer I found from another comic I backed. It's Lucas Gattoni. And then Nicole DeAndrea, I believe I have a friend of mine who mentioned in one of these shows, like, hey, I had an editor. And he name dropped her as like, I've had 2 issues come out so far, both of them with like 1 spelling error. And it drove me insane. Like, I think I put the twice in one of the issues. I was like, I can't do this to myself again. So I contacted Nicole, and she's been great to work with ever since issue 3.
It is almost, like I put up, when I see Nicole is the editor of a book, I have realized it's going to be a good book. She either is the best picker of projects to work on or a fantastic editor. And having worked with her in a different facet, I'm going to guess both, because the books she works on, whether she writes it or edits, are all really great. So just having Nicole on your book, to me, tells me it's going to be good.
A mark of quality. Yep, absolutely.
So awesome. How many days left do you have on this one? You've got about, what, 19 days left?
Yeah, it's still got a good bit.
Oh,
yeah,
you got a
19 days
long
left.
bit of the dead period. LK and Patrick are about to get out of it. You got a long time in the dead period. You got to embrace the suck.
Yep.
Yes. But as long as I do my little bits up until that point, I think I'm enough posts and show off the art, because honestly, it's the art that catches people, and like I've been blown away with like a lot of the stuff. I know we're like in a Discord server, and I've shown some of the pages there. There's a lot that like I really want to show, but I can't, because I'd rather people finally be able to read it and like see it. Because I think even in the last update, I showed a little bit of heaven. Like, you see hell and heaven in this. That's not really a spoiler because I put it out there, but there's a lot I want to show, and I'm excited for it.
No, all right. So let's get into that. The dance of what to spoil and not to spoil on a Kickstarter page, because Ludo and I are talking. He's drawing Tart 15 right now, and we've decided there's one particular thing we want to keep secret, and it's not the villain that she's going to fight. So we're, for the first time, going to kind of be showing people who she's tussling with, because that's not the big surprise. So how does everybody, and I'm just going to put it out there, how do you figure out what to spoil and not to spoil on a Kickstarter page for your books?
I have a hard one coming in issue 4, because there's something that that it's going to end with that I really want on a cover.
Oh,
and there's so there's no way to not spoil it and have the cover. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I have a little while to figure that out. So.
No, that is a conundrum. That's definitely a conundrum. I had a book where the villains were mermaids, and I didn't want anybody to know that for a while. So we did.
But make a good cover.
Yeah. Luckily, I couldn't tell that story succinctly because I'm not a good writer. So I was able to get a second issue where we can put them on the cover of the second issue. But that's a good point. At some point, your marketing brain and your creative brain have to have a discussion of what's more important. It's the marketer should probably win, but the artist is usually going to win, I think.
Well, you're right, because for Crossover Division 3, it was by now everybody knows, I'm sure, it was a feint that the crossover work was going to be Two Gentlemen of Verona. It wasn't, and we actually spoiled it on the cover with the cover image of the actual project on Kickstarter as Romeo and Juliet. They're both set in Verona, so it was kind of a confusion thing. But you're right. How do you protect, I guess, the reader experience up to a point? You want them to come in cold so that you can surprise and shock and do what manipulate the reader, I guess, into feeling what you want them to feel. But you're right, there is a point at which, holy crap, I've got this artist and they've done this awesome cover and I'm going to use it, so Spoilers, everyone.
Well, I'll bring Charlie in because White Ash is something that I feel when I tell people to read it, I do not tell them anything going in because in that first, what was it? 52 pages was your first White Ash. I know it was a lot of 48, 52.
Yeah.
1,000,
52.
wasn't it?
Yeah, and for the Scout Comics edition, it was spread into 1 and 2. And what I really tell people is, you're going to love it. You need to read all of issue 1, and then we'll talk. Or with Scout, I say you got to read issue 1 and 2, and then we'll talk, because there's a turn at the end of that story where everything that was sort of fuzzy makes all the sense in the world. And I never want to take that away for White Ash. But now you're however many issues in, and I've noticed you're not quite as precious about that.
It's hard because like some of the stuff is just out there. But I think when you're looking at the Kickstarter page, it's different if you're doing a one-shot versus if you're doing an ongoing series. If you're doing a one-shot, you have to think about what's the best way to advertise this singular thing.
Mhm.
With like something like the game or Glarian or things that I'm going forward, what I try to do is I look at my book, I look at the first issue, and I say, okay, where's the cold open? Where's the hook for the series? What's going to get people excited? And I put that on the page. And then when I come back for the second issue, I'm not changing that, because anyone who came back already knows what the hook of the series is. They're just going to sort of scroll through and they're going to find, what's the new covers that I want to pick up? What are the new rewards? I'm leaving that there because I want this page to be an advertisement for the new readers coming in. So I don't do too much of adding new content. So if it's issue 3 or issue 4, issue 5, I have the new covers on there, and I might have a teeny little blurb, but I'm going to keep the same hook. Because I'm speaking to the new readers, and if people came back, they're already going to get my book, so I don't need to hook them again.
That's interesting. That's a good
So
point.
I think that's something that you should really think about. You don't need to really hook returning backers, because if they've come back to your page, they're likely coming back to back, right? So like there's not too much you need to do to get them excited. But in general, like just to think of everything as a sales. That's why you get these great covers. You get them to sell the book, right? And if it spoils a little something, it spoils a little something. There are people who love to hear the spoilers before they go, and there are people who don't. So I think whatever you can best use to sell your page, you put it on there. And if someone finds out the secrets, great. If they don't, I'm happy for them to have a little bit more. But ultimately, I want them to buy and read the book, first and foremost.
Like you said, for a one shot, I've got a complete arc. So and it's a mystery. So I don't want to reveal who the murderer is.
You can tell us.
We'll edit it out. We'll edit it out.
It's the werewolf. And that actually is not a secret. Like that's the whole premise. But the real mystery is who is that werewolf. So at the end, you'll find out who the werewolf is. But I was able to kind of hang my hat on the high concept for this. So it was most people. I kind of wrote this for me and for people who share my sensibilities, which is crazy high concept, which is mummy detective versus biker werewolf. That's kind of what I hung the pitch on. And then I had actually like 9 preview pages. And then after talking to Joey, shout out to Joey, and to Heather, my editor, and a couple other people, they're like, yeah, reel it back a little bit. It's like, just give them a little bit. I'm not sure who mentioned it before, but people are sold on the art. They're not necessarily looking at these pages really quick and reading the story too much.
Yeah.
They're going to scan really fast and be like, this is something I would pick up. Like you would if you walked into the shop and flipped through a book. You're not reading the story. Hopefully you're not spoiling anything. So it was easy for me this way to be able to, well, also because the second half of the book isn't done. So I only had a certain amount of things I could choose from.
Really easy not to show spoilers of the last act. I got that.
That's right. Although there are a couple of characters that I didn't put in the roll call because I didn't want to give anything away. So, for me, it was relatively easy, but you do have to kind of figure out, what can you hang everything on that's going to appeal to people.
In the comments, Tate says, "Isn't that why Marvel started doing covers that had nothing to do with the story?" I'm ignorant of why that started to happen. I don't know. I'm going to kind of lean on Will. Do you know this? You're our comic historian.
I'd have to dig into that, but I
I think
mean,
there's a few reasons, aren't there?
yeah.
I've heard a few floated around. Like one is you can have that done at any time in the and you can have something in the drawer that you can use at the last minute. That's the way they used to do it, at least in the 80s. They'd have a couple things laying around that they could use.
And
then
they'd
of
have
course
an evergreen issue that they could throw in if something was late. I know
exactly.
that as well.
Exactly. So I think that got popular. And also then just having the variants, right? So being able to sell, and most of the time the variants have very little to do. It could be a Scotty Young variant that just has the characters with the big heads, and really has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Or it could be like an event. It's the 50th anniversary of Captain Marvel, so they've got Captain Marvel on all the covers or something. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I've got a quick question for everyone. Charlie mentioned bringing in new readers, and I happen to know that he's just launched a new newsletter because I do read your mail, Charlie. I promise. How does new reader outreach, or how does reaching out to your fans look for everyone? Do you have your own mailing lists? And if you do, let us know. We can make sure that we have those in the show notes.
There's this great new platform that's really on the up and up called Twitter. It is going great. I don't know. How does everybody do it?
I actually did a lot on Twitter. Sadly, like Twitter Spaces was just starting to take off for me. Like flashback 3 weeks ago, I was getting like 150 people showing up for Twitter Spaces. I was like, "This is great. This is going to be my thing going forward."
Hey, you've got days where that's still okay. I'm sorry I'm just here for the chaos. It reminds me of the Oscars where they gave the Oscar to the wrong movie, where I'm like, I am so glad I am up to watch this, and I'm so glad I'm on Twitter to watch this. It could literally destroy everything that I've built for 8 years, and that will suck. But I will have been on the Titanic when it hit the iceberg, and I'm here to be a witness to history.
Something to tell your grandkids about.
I think that social media, whatever you can find your footprint on, some people are great at Instagram. I'm not. Some people are great at. Some people use Reddit. I don't understand how they do it. The Discord that Laurent talked about that I have, that if anybody wants to join, please just reach out and I'll bring it in, because we just got cool people who talk about dumb movies, awesome comics in their campaigns. So that's our little safe space until the creators of Discord come out as vampire cats who murder people.
But like that's the thing, and I think there's a term for it called digital sharecropping, right? Where you don't own the platform that you're making yourself known on, and so that's why like having a newsletter is great, because maybe that's just yours. Like I've built up an audience on Kickstarter, but if Kickstarter has issues and I have to go someplace else, then that's going to be hard. So I think trying to build up a platform, say on Twitter, your newsletter, Kickstarter, have 2 or 3 that you're targeting. It used to be everyone said just find that one thing that you're good at, but we're in an age right now where that one thing can be worth $40 billion one day, and then it's not.
Yeah, good point.
Tate says, "I for one welcome our vampire cat overlords." Well, let's stop playing games. Let's get to Charlie's campaign now. I don't have a game coffee cup, but I did bring out the White Ash in honor of our buddy.
Thank you, Kevin.
So I'm going to pull up the game campaign, and you didn't get to do your 30-second pitch. So while I do so, why don't you introduce the game as if someone was walking past your booth and you needed to get their attention?
Well, I mean, the quick pitch I like to say for the game is, imagine Sam from Quantum Leap jumped into the body of the Highlander and had no idea how he got there or what was going on and why all these people were suddenly trying to kill him. So like that's the quick pitch. The slightly longer pitch is it's about a guy who on his 30th birthday wakes up and starts seeing this score that's popping up for everything he does. You know, does he put milk in his coffee? Does he not put milk in his coffee? He's on a, you know, on what he thinks is the best date of his life, but then the score starts rolling in, and what feels like is going to be this big cosmic joke actually turns out to be something bigger, as people think he's player number 3 in this game that's been played for about 1,000 years. And he needs to figure out what's going on and what his part in all of this is before, you know, everything goes kablooey. And so, you know, we launched the first issue of this actually back in 2019. And at the time, I was cranking out issues of White Ash. And Connor, who I was working with, we thought we would do another series on the side and just do a couple of quick issues here and there. And then Connor promptly had his first kid, followed by his second kid. And that changed the schedule for everything. And then White Ash took off, so we're doing this. So we're coming back to the game now. This is issue 2 and 3, and we're going to be coming out with 4 and 5 early next year, which will wrap up the first arc. You know, I actually believe in long previews. They've been good for me. So, you know, Joey, Heather, I'm sorry. Like the game, we have a 10-page preview because I like to show people what they're getting themselves into. I try to find goes up until I hit that point that I think will hook people. Galarian's actually a 15-page preview, so I really leaned in completely the other way. I think as long as you have great art and you get a sense of your story across, that's what really matters. So I think like the note behind the note is make sure you have something compelling on the page that gets people to come back. And if you have that, people are going to want to be part of what you're doing. The art here is by Connor Hughes, and Triona Farrell is doing colors for it. It's an incredible team. I'm really lucky that I work with some amazing storytellers, and they just make what I do easy because they just constantly make me look good, which I love. And
Connor really, honestly, we try to sing his praises whenever he comes up because he has such a unique style that he can do really sexy men and women without it feeling across any lines. Someone said Darwin Cook earlier, and I know it's not exactly his style, but that more comic round edges, it becomes sexy in a classic way as opposed to sexual.
Well, and this is actually something that he did back in 2019, and his stuff has just been improving by leaps and bounds every single year. When you look at the latest stuff that we were doing with White Ash. So the stuff in the second issue of the game is incredible. We have some really pretty variant covers. This is from Eric Wen. And then I've got one from Steph C, which I just love this cover as well. Kevin, the dealer in him, was quick to notice that these are black diamonds. As I like to say, the Black Diamond Trail is the most dangerous one.
It was good because it created some OCD in me that I didn't know I had. And also the fact that it wasn't King, Queen, Jack, it was Queen, Jack, King also had me kind of just, you know, it didn't feel right, but it looked gorgeous.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, something that's beautiful and unsettling. That's, you know, that's what we're trying to do here. So, so we've got some beautiful, this is Ivan Tao. And just check it out. We've got about 4 or 5 days left. We're hoping to cross the 1,000 backer threshold. And
yeah, guys, you got to get on this one. This one is really struggling. We really got to get you to the game. Charlie's hasn't hit 900 backers yet, and that is really rough for him to deal with.
It's setting my OCD off, right? So.
A quick shout out for Connor because he also letters the book, right, Charlie?
Yes, Connor also letters the book, which I think really helps the flow of the storytelling when the artist knows where the words are going to go, because then they can structure the images on the page to lead the eye in conjunction with the words. And so for me, that's something I love, is having him be part of what we're doing. And then in terms of like the one reward that I would like to sort of point out is, because it's the game, we're leaning into that theme of the game. And we have a custom deck of White Ash comics playing cards. which has characters on the face cards from White Ash, from Galarian, and also from the game itself. And we just unlocked a stretch goal recently, which will have an extra wild card from one of the characters from the game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So
So it's now a 55 card deck.
The game
That's
is
up
stacked
my
against you.
OCD.
That's right.
No. So that's really cool. I can't wait to grab one of those and check out what you picked because that's a really interesting. I've thought of a chess set kind of and which characters would be what as I went through our things, and I'm sure it was fun to pick your queens and jacks and kings and aces in the whole.
Well, we've been sort of putting some of those out as little playing card inserts that we've been giving out with the White Ash campaigns as we've been going. And so this was just the time to finally go ahead and make the deck. And I wanted to find a place that could do the nice high quality playing cards. And I found one in Florida. So hopefully, they didn't get swept away by the latest hurricane, because I know you guys just got hit again by something.
I've lived here most of my life. I didn't know there was such thing as a subtropical hurricane until last week. That blew my mind. They're like, yeah, it's a hurricane, but it's not tropical. I'm like, well, I thought that was the whole point, But apparently they're bigger and less concentrated. And for me, luckily, 100% of them have missed me. So I like subtropical hurricanes. Did they get you?
Sub Kevin Joseph.
No, I got like some rain, like because I'm on the East Coast, or I'm on the West Coast of Florida, and I know it really messed a lot with the East. I didn't know about that either. I'm used to hurricanes, tropical storms, tropical depressions, the latest, but never subtropical. That's new for me. But no, I was fortunate. I haven't really been hit by anything significant like that. Like, knock on wood. Worst I've had is power out for a week, but that wasn't a recent hurricane that did that.
No, we got lucky, which means somebody else didn't. But I didn't hear Nicole. I didn't hear really did much more than rain a lot. But Ian was some rough stuff for some people that we like. So
I've had tropical depression for most of my life, but I take tropical Prozac.
Okay,
Treat it really well.
Wait,
man,
I thought didn't they make that subtropical Prozac now, or is that something else?
It's generic now. It's great.
Okay,
It's very
I thought it was
affordable.
topical. All right. Well, everybody, I really appreciate it. It was a great night tonight. I love all the campaigns. Before Will and I go on to some of the campaigns that have been on the show in the last couple of weeks that basically I've missed. So this is going to be a lot of heavy lifting for Will. I'd love everybody to do another little 30-second pitch so they can hear the campaigns again. The way we are set up, LK, I'd love for you to do start us off with Fangs and Foul Play.
Alrighty. So Fangs and Foul Play is about a deserted colonel who is fleeing from a war. He runs into an abandoned house and becomes enthralled by a vampiric cat. And now he has to find victims to feed to the vampiric cat Fang. So he goes from one bad situation to another, and
Renfield with a cat as a master. I love this. All right, Bixby Grant. Let's go back through that real quick.
All right, sure. Yeah, I didn't give the log line before, which is Bixby Grant,
good.
Private Eye is...
You're timing it out nicely.
Yes, very good. Bixby Grant, Private Eye is Hellboy meets the Shadow with a sprinkle of Batman the Animated Series, which is Bixby Grant is a man with no reason to live and no way to die. 90 years ago, he unleashed the Pharaoh's curse and was turned into a living mummy. And that very night, the love of his life, Dolores, was kidnapped. And despite his best efforts, Bix couldn't save her. And she disappeared, never to be seen again.
Right. So let's get into Sacrifice. Laurent, one more time. With feeling.
Hellboy meets Evil Dead. Now, the superpowered host of Lucifer is gathering allies for two primary points. The first being to stop Lucifer from bringing hell to Earth, and the second is to make money by fighting demons to help keep the lights on. It is an action-based horror comedy series.
Awesome. And Charlie, we just did the game, but we want to hear it one more time.
Well, I also want to quickly say, because you mentioned Batman the Animated Series. Quick shout out to Kevin Conroy, who passed today. Who probably, at least for me, and I'm guessing most of the people here, was a voice that was very important to you at some point in your life. So, R.I.P. Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
And
to everybody I've
that,
heard who's met him, he was just a fabulous person in real life as well as a super talented actor as well. I never crossed paths with him, but I've heard he was just an amazing person to meet on the con floor.
Yeah. But now that I've brought things down,
you have 30 seconds to give us up.
It's about imagine Sam from Quantum Leap, the original series, not the remake, jumped into the body of the Highlander, the original, not whatever abomination they're eventually going to remake, and and had no idea how he got there or what was going on, but a guy who finds himself involved in this game where every action is being scored. And people think he's player number 3, and it's part of something that's been going on for over 1,000 years.
That is awesome. Nice. All right, so Will, we're going to go on the campaign. You guys, we'd love to have you hang, but if you're tired or hungry, you have our blessing to go eat or sleep, and if you can do both at the same time, I say more power to you.
I do have to.
Got first? Yeah,
I do have to dip out because I'm used to 10:30. This is getting dangerous for me. I'm feeling off. So
we haven't had anybody fall asleep yet. We haven't had anybody fall asleep. I am dreaming today.
I'm close. The glare in my glasses is the only thing that saved me. But no, it's been a pleasure being on as always. So thank you very much for having me.
Have a great night, buddy.
Thanks. Have a good one.
See you, man.
See you.
All right. So first up, we have Decay, Anthony Stokes' Frankensteinian story about a young lady who all she has in her family left is her brother, and he is murdered at a party that he's DJing. And she is left with the thought of, do I let nature take its course, or do I use some of the magic that I've learned to bring him back? And he comes back angry, and she's left dealing with the situation of maybe I made the right choice and maybe I didn't. Very psychological, rough issue too. Some rough stuff. Anthony doesn't hold back on the harder issues, but it's definitely a cool thing to check out if you want it. 4 days from now, some guy named Charlie Stigney has the game. I think we're going to just ignore that one. 5 days from now, Bixby Grant, and we're going to ignore that one.
Hey.
One campaign that we almost had last week, and unfortunately, Dan Hanfield had internet issues and couldn't make it because he's moving to a new house, and we just couldn't get him on. There's 6 days to go for Lost Boy. I'm going to read the log line: how a hand became a hook and a Peter became the pan. So it's just kind of messing around in the Lost Boys universe, and definitely a campaign that I think is worth checking out. Even though we didn't have him on, he tried, and we have to respect that. Our buddy Pat Shand is on a campaign for MMMA, Mixed Magical Martial Arts. If you know Pat Shand, you know you're going to get a good book, and you know you're going to get the book in your hands. Check it out. I basically backed this because Pat Shand is doing it, so I don't know a lot about the campaign except Pat Shand is doing it, so it's worth checking out. Okay,
also
now
by Bob France and Kevin Cuff.
Oh yeah, the Pirate Boys are on that one. Okay, all right. Maybe I might have backed a little for them too. They are right.
Yeah. Metal
Sacrimony. Yeah. Sacrimony. Numbers 1 through 5 by totally the real Kevin Joseph. Sorry.
That's it. I saw sac and got really excited and put up sacrifice. So here we are. Yeah, Matt was nice enough to be me the week I was sick, and it was really awesome to actually listen to me and enjoy hearing what I say. But fabulous fantasy comic. She writes and illustrates it, colors it, letters it. She does every single thing. And like Patrick, it's a story that's been in her head for, I think she said since she's 14. So about 15 years for her. And it's fantasy, but it's not, it's lovely because as much as I love Tolkien and I gravitate towards Tolkien's mythology, she's coming at fantasy in her own way with her own rules. And it's kind of a fun ride to be on.
Absolutely. Beautiful art too. Beautiful art.
Our friends Pat and Phil and Pat Calamia. I'm gonna start again. Phil Falco and Kat Calamia have Slice of Life, a queer webtoon with an anime twist, and assassin on an anime television show comes to real life and falls in love with the woman that is in the room when she does, and it's just kind of a lot of fun, goofy stuff. You can check the comic out for free on Webtoons, and then you can back it on Kickstarter.
My daughter is obsessed with that one. As soon as they come in, she like steals the issues for Slice of Life, and she just sits down and she's like finishes and like, when's the next one? I'm like, it's gonna be a little bit.
We got 10 days left
take
on
time.
Yes, they take a lot of time. We've got 10 days left on Fangs and Foul Play. We're gonna ignore that one. This is what Miskatonic High issue 16 just launched. Mike Shea is a fabulous dude who works like nobody I know in the business. I at some point we're going to be able to tell what we put together. And when we do, I want you to know I did like 8% of the work and he did 92% because he is a madman, and his books are great. If you like Lovecraft, it's based in the mythos. If you're like me, I'm not always into Lovecraft stuff, and Miskatonic High works for me. I'm into it for the high school kids getting thrown into horrific stuff, and I think it's a fabulous book. And as of right now, I believe it is the most issues of any single book that I've seen on Kickstarter, because he done passed me, and that is fine because I love watching his book, and I'm really proud of him. So that's what I got.
There's
next. Oh, go ahead.
There's I don't know if it does not need any help, I'm sure, but The Rocketeer and Dave Stevens, a documentary film, launched, and it's going to actually come with some comics by Adam Hughes is going to be doing the art for some of them. I think I can't remember. There's another cover by some really awesome artists, A-list artists from comics that are going to be doing some stories of the Rocketeer that will come with the Blu-ray documentary, which I think is really cool.
Awesome. Oh, we've got Destination is an anthologies by the people from Onishi Press, and they are going to be on the show next week telling us all about it. So, all right, everybody, we really appreciate you coming out. It was nice to get back in and talk comics with Will. Will, thank you for hosting it while I played hooky for 2 weeks. I do appreciate it. But thank you. We'll get this out. We'll get the podcast up. So everybody who joined, Shawnee, Alan, Joey at the Geek Collective, Tate, we really appreciate everybody in the comics. Gonzalo Martinez, the artist on Bixby, coming in and making his presence felt. So we appreciate that. If you listen to this on the podcast, people who know what they're doing say to rate and review it. So I'm just going to repeat what they say. And after that, I'm going to say goodnight. Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Bye.